Yo, welcome back to another video. We have a 10.1 DPS tier list for Melee for you guys for both Mythic Plus and Raid. Primarily normal and heroic rating and up to plus 20 keys because that's more of where my experience lies. But obviously the season just went live, so things are going to change. Tuning happens all the time, as you guys know. I made a prediction video just a couple weeks ago, and oh my gosh, things have shook up already so much. It's kind of crazy. So we're gonna cover what I think are the best specs right now, and I think are the worst. Let me know what you guys think down below. And obviously, you know, like I said, things are gonna change, but most of these specs you can play in definitely normal heroic rating, unless you're pushing some progression with your guild. And heroic maybe mythic it could change, especially in these lower specs. But you could definitely push up to plus 20s. I think with every single specialization here for Melee. But there are definitely some outliers that are weaker and stronger, for sure. So let me explain the tier list real quick. We got S, Gods here. These are the best specs. We'll probably see more than one of them in the Raid. Normal and Heroic, probably Mythic. You probably see the highest keys done with these specs. They have a lot of strengths, not a lot of weaknesses. Awesome, maybe a little bit more weaknesses. Not quite tuned to the same level of these guys. But they're really good specs, solid overall. We will see them probably everywhere. B is good, pretty much good all around. Just more weaknesses, maybe struggle in single target damage, AoE damage. Maybe don't bring the same group utility as these other specs do, but still a good spot. C, meh, clear weaknesses compared to these other tiers, but probably be able to do a majority of content. You will start to struggle compared to these other specs, maybe in damage, utility, whatever. D is help me, golly, needs some tuning, needs something to change for this spec to be viable for sure. Let's jump right into it. To kick things off, let's go with Death Knights. So we're gonna go put Unholy in S tier. I think it is probably the best melee spec right now, if not one of the best. Its damage profile is absolutely crazy, whether that's AoE for Mythic Plus or AoE encounters for Raid, and their single target damage is really good. They just bring so much to the table with just their damage profile, which you kind of have to if you don't bring some kind of, you know, Raid buff or debuff for the Raid. But they do have Battle Res, which is nice, Death Grips, which can be good in niche situations, and Anti-Magic Zone, which can be really good for stack situations in the Raid, especially which there are a couple encounters that it looks like that will happen. I think they're a fantastic spec to bring in, and with it being such a you know, a range focused tier for Raid, I think that we're not going to bring a lot of melees most likely, and if you're bringing a melee, you're definitely bringing Unholy DK, maybe even two of them. They're so freaking good, and they're a great target for PI. Yo, for Frost, I think we're going to put in B. I think it still brings a good damage profile. It's just not quite to the same level Unholy. They're bringing the same toolkit. But dude, they don't perform as well. They do pretty good single target and pretty good AoE, so I think they're a solid choice. Obviously, especially for normal and heroic, you can still play them. And up to plus 20 keys, but on that higher profile, if you're really trying to min-max or push prog or something like that for with your guild, I think you're going to pick Unholy outside of that. Just does way more damage. For Havoc, I'm going to put them in A tier. So they received some buffs recently, which is why I'm putting there. I think that's going to help them out slightly, not a big chunk, but you know, with adjustments to their tier set, adjustments to some abilities, some tuning there. I think it'll help out, especially in their single target, because their single target was lacking, especially for Raid. But Mythic Plus, they're freaking good. Plus, you're always gonna want that 5% magic debuff from Chaos Brand. It just helps out a lot. You know, for Mythic Plus, they have multiple AoE stuns with Chaos Nova and Sigil of Misery if you need that, which is cool. They're just a solid spec, man. They have a high skill cap too, which is nice, with the momentum build, which is, I mean, just a good change from what it used to be before. Really strong in Mythic Plus, I think, and single target there. In Raid, they are lacking, which is probably why I'm gonna put them in A and not S tier for now. But you know, that could change, honestly. Feral, I'm also gonna put in A tier. Feral's really good. Obviously, it's a Druid, right? So you bring Battle Res. You have Mark of the Wild, which is a 3% verse buff for your group or, you know, Raid. You have Stampeding War, which is really good, and Innervate, which is really helpful, especially in Prog. But they do decent single target damage, better than Balance from what I've seen from testing and the rankings so far going into, you know, the second season. But they also do really good AoE. Like they're pumping. So for Mythic Plus, they're gonna be definitely something you're gonna bring to the table. So if you've been wanting to play Feral for a while, you know, season 1 was good, and I think season 2 is gonna be even slightly better. And the tier set looks super fun, very interesting. So yeah, definitely A tier for sure. Survival, man, I'm gonna put Survival down in meh. So the reason I'm putting them down here, they actually have a pretty good damage profile, not for single target. The single target's rough for Raid, which I think this is why they deserve to be down here. But it's pretty good damage for AoE. I think there needs to be some kind of tuning changes, something to bring to the table. They also, you know, they don't bring some Raid buff, which sucks. They do have Lust, which is great. You know, you've got AoE Root, you've got long single target stun with Freezing Trap. you have a lot of things in your toolkit, so that's why I think they shine better in Mythic Plus, and just their damage profile with AoE and counters is better. But they're lacking. That is for sure. Windwalker Monk. So Windwalker Monk is always going to be valued. You want one monk at least in your raid, because they give you that Mystic Touch debuff or whatever, 5 physical damage, whatever, increased physical damage, which is really good for your melee compositions. But Brewmaster is looking so good, and Mistweaver isn't looking very good either, in my opinion. So I think that they're just lower on this tier. They're struggling so hard in single target. They have to have some kind of change. Their tier set's weird, even with the different iterations that they've added to it. They just aren't to the same level of a lot of these other DPSs. I think they're better in Mythic Plus, so if you're looking to play them, play in Mythic Plus, raid. Definitely gonna struggle for sure. I think you play him in normal and heroic. Heroic might struggle. Definitely not Mythic, I don't think, unless you need that physical damage debuff. But yeah, they're tough spot for sure. Dude, I'm so tempted. Okay, so I'm gonna put Ret actually high A tier. I think they are better than Havoc and Feral. For a couple reasons. Okay, so they have battle res now, which is really nice, but I think you're gonna want, if you're doing raid, I think you're gonna want 1 devotion aura and 1 ret aura, with the damage reduction you get from devotion aura, and then the damage and healing buff you get if someone takes like a hit for more than 30% of the health. It's just really nice to have. Really valued in raid for sure. And like I said, they have battle res. They do good single target damage. I think that's where they lack, though, more in single target to raid. But AoE, they're popping, guys. I think they're in the best spot. We've seen them in a really long time. Not as good at the end as the end of season 1, with some tuning and stuff like that, but still a solid spot. I think they deserve to be in high A tier, and I think they're gonna be a solid choice to pick. Push anything. So if you've been wanting to play Ret Paladin, now is the time. Okay, yo, rogues. Okay, we'll do all 3 of these. So I think they all. So they're all really good. One really shines in raid, but struggles in Mythic Plus. That's Assassination. So we'll start there. I'm gonna put them in B, only because they're really good in raid. Specifically this spec, they're really struggling in Mythic Plus, though. There's some significant differences there. They are worse than Frost DK in my opinion, just overall. Just because Frost is pretty good in both scenarios, Mythic Plus and raid, and Assassination is really good in raid, not good in Mythic Plus. But it's so much better than Outlaw and Sub in raid that it deserves a spot to be, I think, higher of the 3. In Mythic Plus, like I said, it is the worst. But you're definitely gonna want at least 1 rogue, just because of the atrophic poison. It's really good for raid. Reduces the damage by 3%. So for the whole raid, you also have group stealth for Mythic Plus. A lot of stuff in your toolkit to help out the team. So I'm gonna put them B. I'm gonna be the top rogue spec. I'm gonna put Outlaw right after Assassination. Sub actually in last, which is a big change from season 1. I think Sub is actually the lowest DPS spec for single target of the 3 specs. I think Outlaw shines a little bit better, and actually I think Sub is slightly better in Mythic Plus, but just barely from Outlaw. So I think with Outlaw being pretty much better, I wouldn't say much better, but better in single target and right next to it in AoE, I think Outlaw is going to be a little bit better than Sub, and Assassination looking to be really good for raid, and then, like I said, struggling in Mythic Plus. So, if you're looking to play Rogue and you're a master of all the specs, you'd like all 3 of them. Playing Assassination and Mythic and Raid would be really sweet, really good, and then playing Outlaw and Mythic Plus probably would be a solid bet. Let's see, dude, Enhancement, bro. I'm gonna put Enhancement in A tier, okay? So I think they're right along the same. I probably put these really close to each other. Enhancement's really good. Obviously they bring Lust, they have Reincarn, they have Purge, Windrush Totem for the group, so it's like another Stampeding Roar with the movement speed for everyone. Also Enhance brings Wind Fury Totem, so if you have a high melee focused comp, especially for raid, that's gonna be really good, with their auto attacks. But I think that with the tier and the raid looking so much like it favors range, I think that it's not as valued as much. They do bring a good single target damage, though. They can top some freaking meters, especially if someone knows what they're doing. Really high skill cap for Enhancement Shaman. They're doing really good in Mythic Plus, which is awesome. It's really cool to see them in such a great spot. I don't think they're quite to the same level as Season 1. They were really good, but I think they're still a solid choice. Because I think there could be a debate made in Season 1. They could be an S tier, if not S tier, especially with how many high keys they're completed, especially early on in the season. But I think they're A tier. A solid A tier choice. Definitely better than these specs here. Okay, so we got Warrior here. I think Arms is A, for sure. Arms Warrior is a solid choice. For both the Warriors, you bring in Battle Shout, which just buffs attack power. So that's so good for your melee comps. Rallying Cry is really nice. Can help out a lot. You got a fast interrupt. They bring a lot of stuff. They don't have so much for CC and Mythic Plus or anything like that, but they're a good choice, man. They do good single target damage. They're great for raid. One of the top DPS specs. I think, especially for melee, which is cool to see, and they're really good in Mythic Plus, man. I think they deserve a spot in A. I think they're a solid choice. The tier set looks good. Fury, and they received buffs recently, a small buff, but still. Fury, dude, I'm actually gonna put in high B. So I think it's right next to either yeah, I think it's in B. High B, I think it's better than Frost, better than the Rogue specs in my opinion. Again, you still bring in Battle Shout, you still have Rallying Cry, you got a fast interrupt, your Flurry, it's easy to play, it's a flurry of damage, like I said, it's easy to play, but I don't think it brings the same damage profile in AoE actually right now, even after the buffs from what I've seen. This could change though, but I think Arms Warrior is just shining a little bit more at AoE and definitely for single target. But actually, Fury is doing good in single target, just not quite to the same level of Arms, especially in normal and heroic rating. That might change with Mythic, but yeah, I think this is where I'm going to put the specs, guys. I think Windwalker, Monk, and Survival Hunter are definitely lacking compared to a lot of these other specializations. And their damage profile, and one's really good in AoE, really bad in single target. No, actually, they both are. They're both better in AoE, and they suck in single target. There's some significant differences between these specs and these other ones, especially with what they bring to the table. Although Mystic Touch is nice, it's just not the same as these other specs. I think the only melee freaking S tier spec is Unholy, dude. Guys, they're phenomenal right now. That's even with the nerf to the trinket they were using, the puzzle box. I think they still have a good trinkets later on down the road. So as the tier moves on, I think they're going to be a solid choice, especially running into the patch. So this is where I stand. Let me know if you guys agree with me or not, and what melee DPS you're going to be playing. I will probably be playing Ret because I've wanted them to be good for so freaking long, and they finally are. Probably some Havoc DH, man, and maybe a little DK with Enhancement Shaman. That's my plan. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.